the problem on a part of the American right, some of which has influence, some of which does not, is that, again, sorry to sound repetitive, but first of all, Qatari money everywhere, sloshing around, very attractive. Then there's the issue of the clickbait nature of it.
True.
If you do a podcast about something that is historically accurate and accepted to be true, your click rate might be good, it might be moderate, it might be low.
Have you noticed the growing sentiments of anti-American, anti-Western value systems spreading across not only the far left, but also the far right? Take a look at this clip over here with Douglas Murray talking about the growth of this sort of anti-Western mentality, this anti-Western culture, and how it grows and what motivates it, and what we can do about it and expect for the future. So we'll watch this clip together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
I agree with you, and I think I do in general, and I do believe that, again, it's, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to have a different solution, like the two-state solution, which everybody keeps peddling out again and again as if somehow, the Palestinian leadership became now Swiss. But the one thing that does concern me in America, and again, I have a lot of trust in President Trump and his administration, is this kind of not new but regurgitated form of old right-wing anti-Semitism that we're seeing with this, what they call the woke right, the Tucker Carlsons. You're there, Douglas, and you have a sharp eye. How prevalent is it, and should we be very worried about it?
I think it's definitely a worry, yes. And I don't think it's just a sort of I don't think it's just anti-Semitism that has been toyed with, let's say, by some influences on the right. I think it's also an anti-Westernism. We're back to that thing, the conjoined nature of these two things. They just come together like a horse and carriage or a motorbike and sidecar. The problem on a part of the American right, some of which has influence, some of which does not, is that, again, sorry to sound repetitive, but first of all, Qatari money everywhere, sloshing around, very attractive. Then there's the issue of the clickbait nature of it.
True.
If you do a podcast about something that is historically accurate and accepted to be true, your click rate might be good, it might be moderate, it might be low. If you do a quasi-historical pseudo-analysis that's based on absolutely nothing, but is new and sparkly and dangerous, you'll get the clicks. So it's also being driven by that algorithmic issue where weak people and easily bought people will simply pander to what will bring them the clicks and therefore the cash revenue. But there's also this issue that, unfortunately, and again, it's something I've pointed out for many years, unfortunately, again, these things can come from any direction. The right-wing anti-Westernism is essentially that thing of Israel is particularly bad, but we in the West are also bad and have always been bad. And particularly in America, it comes across in the neo-isolationist wing, which believes that America has never done any good in the world, effectively, that everywhere America has got involved in the world, it's made worse. I suppose that was inevitable as a backlash against some of the failed foreign policies of the post 9/11 period, and the resulting feeling among some on the right who were burned by agreeing with, for instance, George W. Bush's policies and then seeing that, it turned out that they didn't know as much as they should have known. I think that there are a lot of people on the right who've been burned by that. This is the most good faith analysis. They've been burned by that, and as a result, they'd rather that American troops stayed at home, other than in exceptional circumstances where the American homeland was at threat. And I think these people have absorbed a sort of left-wing narrative again, that, wherever American might is shown, everything gets worse. And I don't think that's the case. And I think it's a shame that a portion of the right is playing with that in the same way that a portion of the left has played with it for many decades now.
Yeah. It's really beggars belief. Like you said, you don't know where it's coming from, and it could come from anywhere. And ultimately, I think going against Israel, going against the Jews is the beginning of, like you said, going against their own Western civilization. And that is extremely sad. But you give us some hope, Douglas. First of all, that there's people like you who can write these books that have an enormous effect onto the psyche of people who are least willing to listen, and for your advocacy and for your accurate reporting of the terrible, terrible massacre that happened. I know you were here, and I know that you've met with so many of those victims. And Israel is still strong. It's going to be continue to be strong. And we pray that I pray. Sometimes I think sometimes things have to go really rock bottom before they get better again. I'm just wondering whether we've hit the bottom and now are coming back, or we haven't hit it yet. But I'm praying that the way history goes up and down, that's what's going to happen.
I pray for the same thing, Flo.
Thank you so much, Douglas. Thank you.
This is what you're seeing, a woke ideology dividing both the left and the right. And the left seems to capitulate to it. It seems that everyone gets into the same tent. That's why you have candidates like Zoran Mamdani, who are very far left, representing and being endorsed by the sort of mainstream Democratic Party, the mainstream left. And so they're all kind of coalescing under one title. But really, there's a more moderate mainstream classical left and the woke. I think the woke just is very outspoken, and people feel that they have to sort of capitulate, I guess, to it to garner votes and to win elections. But you find a similar thing happening on the right as well, as is described over here, where you have voices that are sort of in when it comes to Jewish ideas and Israel and whatnot. There's this sort of horseshoe right where they're so far to the right that they're actually meeting when it comes to anti-Semitism or anti-Semitic tropes and anti-Israel nonsense, that they actually meet at the bottom of this horseshoe. And most of the time on the right, there is this divide that's between the sort of classical conservatives and these sort of far right, woke right ideas. And I wonder what the future is going to be, if we're going to rearrange things, if we're going to keep the sort of Democrat and Republican, or if it's going to sort of divide into four parties, the more radical elements and the more moderate elements, and that the radical elements might link to each other and the more moderate elements might link to each other as well and form two completely new parties. I don't know how that's going to go, but Western values, really the divide between our culture right now seems to be divided of civility and barbarism, or Western values versus the tearing down of Western values. Whether it's on the woke right or the woke left, that seems to be the end game goal, ripping down the system, right? Those who are upholding Western values say the system is good, the system has done tremendous good for the world. And both the woke right and the woke left are saying, no, we got to rip down the system for different reasons, but still the end game goal is the same. Western values, Judeo-Christian values as they are called sometimes, what I like to call Hebrew Bible values, really are what undergirds our civilization. And the values in which we all cherish are rooted in those things. So things like women's rights and liberty and freedom of expression and all of these certain things that make a good society and that have made society a better place are the things that are represented in these values, in these Western values. It's interesting because these Judeo-Christian values, although that's what they're called sometimes, they don't really have to do with religion per se, because many people that don't consider themselves religious at all still can acknowledge that they prefer, or that they recognize the value that it is to live under the sort of Judeo-Christian values system, in that sort of culture. You have people, that's why you have people like Bill Maher, who is very much on the left and does not consider himself to be a believer in God, endorse Westernism and endorse and say that this is a good system to live under, certainly better than the other alternatives that are out there. This is why you have people even like Richard Dawkins, who is certainly not by any stretch of the imagination a religiously minded person, doesn't believe in Judeo-Christian values as a religious or theological view, wants nothing to do with the theology of Christianity, but has acknowledged that it is a good thing to live in a Christian culture, or a culture that has been shaped by this worldview, as opposed to the other ones that are available out there. So accepting the premise and endorsing and encouraging and perpetuating Judeo-Christian values, Hebrew Bible values, Western values on a societal level does not have to do with religion, something that anyone who, on any spectrum of religious thought, can and should, I believe, get behind in their defense. And I mean, certainly we'll see how time goes and how political parties and worldviews and ideologies break down and reform and reshape themselves. But certainly it is the Judeo-Christian, the Hebrew Bible values, the Western value system that should be championed by those that appreciate civilization, civility, general good living, and those that don't and want to tear it down for something else. Be careful what happens when you tear something down, because what replaces it may not be exactly what you had hoped for. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.